I was up at the Long Branch Saloon, which was a biker bar, and it was a hangout for the Bandito Motorcycle Club. And anyway, I was in there, and I don't know, he wound up in a parking lot, and he saw my motorcycle there, so he decided to come in and talk to me. Well, the problem is that in that environment, if you didn't, ride a Harley, or you were in the wrong environment. And so anyway, he came inside and sat down at the bar beside me, and I could see the other guys in the bar were, thinking, hey, this is a guy that could probably take out back and beat him up and take his money. Well, I didn't want him, any harm to come to him, but then again, I couldn't appear weak and say, hey, this is my buddy here, don't mess with him, So he sat down beside me, and I smoked back in those days, and he smoked too, and he had a brand new pack of Marlboros, and I said, hey, I said, why don't you give me a cigarette? And so he opens his pack, and he taps out a cigarette, and he gives me one. I put it in my shirt pocket. And I said, hey, man, I said, I need another one. Can you give me another cigarette? He's like, well, you didn't smoke that one. I said, hey, man, just give me a cigarette, right? Okay. He taps another one out, and he gives it to me. And I proceeded to do that 20 times until I had gotten every one of his cigarettes and put it in my pocket. And finally he goes, look. I said, hey, man, I said, you got a cigarette? And I'm being kind of mean to him. He's kind of puzzled why I'm doing this. And I get his whole pack out, and I go, hey, man, I said, you got another cigarette? And he says, no. I says, you got all my cigarettes in your pocket. And I said, well, but you better go get some more. And he goes, well, okay. And he gets up and he leaves, and he knows not to come back because I'm being mean to him. And all of my friends were saying, all the guys in the bar were going, hey, man, that was pretty cool. And then when I saw him the next day, he was kind of sulking and saying, why were you so mean to me? And I said, man, if you'd have stayed there another 30 minutes, they would have taken you out back, and they would have worked you over, they would have taken your wallet. And I said, I was just trying to get you out of there. So I'm sorry if I seemed like a...
That is incredible. That is incredible. Well, that is a story.
And the thing is that, see, because all the guys in the bar saw my tattoos and everything, they thought I was just being a...
one of them.
One of them, exactly right.
Yeah.
And was just giving this guy a hard time.
So basically, if you translate, I think that title would be one of them, not one of us. Something like that. But
very interesting.
Yeah. Well, this is amazing, really. There's not too many intellectuals who would do this. And obviously, the reasoning is you think it's cool. That's why you did it.
Yeah, and indeed, when I first... another thing is that I'm also a poet. And when I first started writing poetry and sharing poetry and telling people I was a poet, they all said, oh, well, you must be effeminate, or, people who write poems, they have this image of the Victorian poet with this little fluffy collar and his long flowing hair, writing with a quill and not thinking it's very important or very manly. And so at one point I thought to myself, I value poetry a whole lot, and I want to maybe put forth an image that sometimes poets can be tough and can talk about,
I think that if you consider Japanese culture, all these samurais, they go to the battlefield and they kill ruthlessly, then get back home and write a small, nice poem. Thank you, 3 lines, and boom, it's supposed to be beauty.
Exactly. No, you hit the nail on the head. That was my vision back in my early 20s of creating a persona that would be the poet warrior. And so that was sort of kind of appealing then to...
Did you have real chances to prove that?
Well, no, fortunately not. I did hang out in several unsavory places like the Long Branch Saloon and stuff like that.
Did you write stories about that?
Oh, indeed.
Oh, yeah? There are some?
Very often, I like to write. My subject matter will be, about maybe sometimes violent topics or things like that.